The opinions expressed in the following programs are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect those of Rogers nor Rogers TV.
Well, I'm honored to be here today with Kelly Ziegner. Now, Kelly is president and CEO of Elgin Middlesex, or is it Middlesex Elgin? Which is
Elgin Middlesex United Way. Yeah.
United Way, that's right. Just want to make sure I got that right. And I really appreciate you being here today, Kelly. And I look forward to this because I think that, for the folks that I've been talking to, I always start off with how is COVID affecting you as an organization. And for many groups, they have a focus and they're trying to get around to it. The problem, I would presume, for the United Way here is the fact you've got many areas, many pots on the stove that you have. That's always been the way it's been with United Way. So I presume the effects on you would be a little bit different perhaps than it has been on others. How has it been for you?
Yeah, I mean, just speaking as a leader, leading an organization in our community, it's a tough time to be, working and supporting your workers as they're dealing with, self-isolation and school closures. And so we're sort of always doing this juggling act internally to make sure that we, have all those pots boiling because the community really needs us right now. So being a leader, it's tough and it's tough on workers and organizations. But when I think from a community perspective on the pandemic, I would say it was the best of times. It was the worst of times. And, we certainly are seeing, and you're feeling this every day at the food bank. It is the worst of times for far too many people in our community. The needs are, spiking in unprecedented ways. And as you're probably seeing as well, it's often individuals and families that have never had to reach out for support. So certainly seeing that. The best of times, though, is we're seeing that in a couple of ways. One, how our community is rallying together. Those who are still in a position to give are giving and giving more. We're seeing lots of innovation by social service agencies, by healthcare providers. That level of innovation is really incredible and important. And I hope that is what we see is the silver lining that comes out of the pandemic, because I think we have all found new ways of working together, and it's creating interesting synergies and efficiencies, and enabling us to provide better care and service to those who need it most.
Yeah. Whenever I think about United Way, and I always think of it in high terms, it's because the model of the United Way is very much one of where it's a one-stop shop kind of thing that people can, donate to the United Way. Not just money, but talents and other things that people might have, but also then that is defrayed out through into the community to various agencies, causes, so on and so forth. And that's been such a highly productive model, I think, because, since I've been at the food bank, which has been 35 years, the whole charitable nonprofit format has changed so much, right? Yeah. And there are all these different causes out there, which are very, very important. Many of them speak to the fact that our policies are not operating the way that they should. And that's why these groups exist in that sense. But the thing about for you as United Way is you're still doing that broader formula of getting it out there. But is there anything, there's been so many changes even in the last decade. Is there anything that's changing there for United Way and that the pandemic is maybe causing you to look at it and doing these things in a new way?
Yeah, there's certainly a couple of things in our evolution as an organization, and some of it's been accelerated by the pandemic. So I think it would say first and foremost, most people know us as a fundraiser, and as we have many big successful workplace campaigns
Mhm.
is where often people are introduced to United Way, where there's fundraising happening at Canada Life or at Western. It comes back to United Way. Our team of volunteers then distribute those funds out to community agencies
Yeah.
across the region. And that work still continues, though I would say the pandemic has made it very clear that folks that live in racialized communities, people with disabilities, Indigenous folks have been disproportionately affected. Have always been disproportionately affected by poverty, but that the pandemic has really laid that bare. And our board sort of decided to take action and really began a process of refining what that community fund looks like and what we fund with a deeper focus on poverty reduction and alleviation, and all through an equity lens. So ensuring that the programs and services we're funding are of, by, or for those equity-seeking populations. And so we're just in the thick of right now, our volunteers are going through all of those grant applications that we received this fall. So for the first time in decades, we had an open and competitive process for funding, which meant that we received close to $14 million in funding requests for about $5 million. So that speaks to the need in the community for certain. And also, it will be a very, very difficult decision-making process for those community volunteers who are adjudicating those requests right now. So that's a process that they're engaged with. We also have just opened up a small granting stream called project funding, and that closes on grant applications. We're taking them until February 15th, and those are for short, small, one-time projects, in about $10,000 to $15,000 range, to give maybe those smaller grassroots organizations some startup money, some ability to do some capacity building in their organization, and so that's a new funding stream for us that's available right now as well. And then besides our funding, the other piece that we're getting deeper and deeper involved with is around advocacy and public policy. As you and I have discussed many times, the work that we're doing on the front lines is, sort of the ER and fixing people up and for the moment and sending them back out on the street. But then those deep-rooted underlying issues are policy decisions that are being made at all three levels of government. And it's important for us as a nonprofit sector to identify those root causes and work together to advocate for things like increased social assistance rates, improved access to housing, all of those things that are at the root of why you're seeing people show up at the food bank or why people don't have the mental health care supports that they have.
Yep. Were you in that process about the inclusion of other things before COVID started, and then that just kind of accelerated it, or was it COVID that kind of caused it?
I would say we were dipping our toe more into that public policy work, for about 5 years. But certainly the pandemic has accelerated that. And, I would say we've, and I don't know if you've experienced this too, government has been leaning in and listening and wanting advice from organizations like ours who are seeing what is sort of showing up on the doorsteps of our local communities. And so we've used that opportunity to really build those relationships and talk about those issues in ways that make it tangible and meaningful for policymakers.
Yeah, even for a government, and I understand it a bit from the federal aspect, when you hit a crisis like COVID and you want to release funds to go out there, you tend to release them to the groups, I think, that are kind of have a broad reach, that have an ability to make an impact. So food banks, many of the food banks in the country benefited towards that. But in order to do that, the federal government gave the money to put to the Food Banks Canada of which we are a member, and then it's distributed down through that. That makes a lot of sense to me because it's an emergency and you're trying to free up these funds and do the most good in a short period of time. On the other hand, it's not quite as personal. You're leaving the personal aspect of that up to the agencies that are going to get helped through this kind of way, right? But you folks, I think federal funds were given to United Ways to help to accelerate that process as well. Is that correct?
That's right. So we help distribute the Emergency Community Support Fund. So in our local region, United Way worked with local area community foundations, London Community Foundation, Elmer, St. Thomas. We all worked together to distribute a significant amount of funds. United Way, we had an extra $3 million to distribute out into the community, and worked really closely with the community foundations. They also received a pot of money to distribute so that we could avoid duplication. We could identify where there were gaps, sort of know who's on first, so that we could stretch every dollar as far as possible to where it was needed most.
Yeah. Can I get a bit personal with you, Kelly, for a minute, if you don't mind? Yeah. I think you and I have been on many different things together over the years, but we were also part of the recovery panel, the London Recovery Network. And the whole thing at the beginning of this, and you and I talked a bit about this even after the first meeting that it ever had near the beginning of the pandemic, was a whole idea about building back better. Right. That was the thing. That's what everybody was talking about. And I think even for things like the homeless piece and others that we were involved with and that you were involved with, there was the feeling that, we were failing even prior to the pandemic to deal with these things effectively. This now gives us the opportunity. And two of the things I felt that helped us there was the media was focusing on a lot of those things, which I thought was helpful. Yeah. And the second thing was I really felt that the public and businesses were entered into this kind of space that was very much about community space. They were much more, they weren't asking as many questions about the homeless piece that were kind of punitive in any way. They were, how can we help? What can we do? And we had an experience, you probably got it more than we did, but just businesses coming in and wanting to help in those terms. So you and I were kind of in the thick of all that as it was going along, right? Yeah. And, that was a year in process as we worked through some of those things. Do you think that it worked? Do you think that some of those lessons or the building back better piece that we said we were going to get to, do you think we did?
I do. For some cases, I think we always want things to move faster. We need them to move faster. Particularly when we think of people who are dealing with homelessness, the housing crisis that we're on. There's challenges dealing with multiple levels of government and sort of having the funding to do all of those things. So, I think the pace is still a challenge because the need is urgent. But where I would say some of that innovation I spoke to right off the top was having this cross-sectoral approach. So that was through the London Community Recovery Network. And, I think often sectors are very sort of guilty of being very insular, right? I work in the nonprofit sector, or I work in the corporate sector, and we bring those leaders, together as a sector. But what I found through LCRN is having, a table where you had labor represented, and you had corporate and you had nonprofit, all government, all coming together to, look for solutions that, were outside the box or, challenge the thinking that we often have. I think in the nonprofit sector, when we start thinking about a solution to something, we think within the box, within the constraints of funding, within the constraints of, partnerships or whatever. And, I think having, some entrepreneurial thinking and some corporate thinking to say, don't start there. Start out here. Tell us what the solution is, and we'll figure out how to get there. So I think that level of innovation was really inspiring and good to be a part of. I hope that continues, and I continue to sort of poke at that. Any table I'm at, I'm saying, like, who else can we bring to the table that's not the usual suspects, and hope that certainly continues. I think from just a broader public awareness perspective, I think one thing the pandemic has done is it's almost like a great equalizer insofar as, most people know somebody that's been impacted by this, whether they've gotten ill, whether they've lost a job, whether they're, having a hard time finding affordable housing. I think many of us are seeing this in our everyday circles, whether it's with our coworkers, our family members, our friends. And so I feel like there is this renewed or shared or amplified empathy across our community, where people, are not, it's not us and them, it's not about us, fixing them. It's really a collective, and our community is seeing that folks are a lot more vulnerable than we thought.
Yeah. One of the things there are many, but one of the things I really appreciate about the United Way is that there is this kind of more sophisticated view of some of these problems. And that's because you have to represent so many different issues that are out there, and the people that are involved in all of those things. It's like, I think, I've seen it often. People will get into politics, let's say, and they have a cause or something they want to do, and they go to Ottawa, and then they sit down, they try to work that, and then they suddenly realize there's all these other things impinging on it, all these other things that can come of it. You see the promise of it, but you realize that it's more complex than you initially thought. And I know in the committee meeting I was on with you on that very first one, we talked, you were co-chair of that committee. And I think it's because the city and the mayor understood you have that more nuanced view. If we're going to come through with solutions that are going to be great for the overall cause of the city, then we need somebody who can understand that. And it seems to me that you really have that, Kelly. It's a real quality of yours personally, I know.
Thank you.
But also, you're the United Way. You're in all of these different things. You will understand a lot of those things that maybe we don't see. And I know it's hard because on that call, I think there were about, was it 35 or 40 groups, right? And many of them are people down right on the ground, helping people right where they're at. They're on the front lines of it. And they're coming into that meeting and they're looking for support for that cause. And it's right. We have to find ways to do that. But, I sat there looking at you sometimes on those calls and realized, Kelly she knows that if that's to actually happen and be good, it has to be sustainable. So we don't just throw a bunch of money, and that's something that you would understand. Can I ask you a bit about, when I think of United Way, I also think of the business community, and not just in London, but United Way is partly predicated upon the idea that businesses could invest there, both on the management side or the corporate side, but also on the employee side. The United Ways have always been so good at providing those opportunities for those groups. But I have felt, and now I'm a Calgary boy, I was born and raised in Calgary. I've always found London a little bit, this might be just me, but there's a little bit of a separation there between the social side of things and the business side. And that might not be true. It might be true. But I do think when we look at a lot of the things that we're confronting, the homelessness, the whole climate change thing, poverty, women's issues, inclusion, race, all of those kind of things that really, as government funds get less and less as the time goes on, businesses have a real opportunity at this point to step up, despite all the challenges they're facing with COVID and other things. But it's been my sense, and you don't have to answer this because I'm not looking to you to get you into any hot water, but it is my sense that, when we look at these big problems, we don't go to the business community and say, can you help us to do that? Instead, it's usually the social groups that will come together and say, we need these kind of things. And then they go to government, let's say, and say, we need you to change policy or to fund these projects more. And I have felt that within London, that the business community has been largely marginalized in some of these issues. And it troubles me because, as you do, we work with the business community. I see a lot of great hearts there. Do you have a sense on that, or do you think I'm way out in left field on that?
I think there's a little bit of a shift happening, and I hope that it gains some momentum insofar as, I have my colleague who's the CEO of United Way Toronto often talks about fairy dust philanthropy, and that was, I think, what United Way was doing a little bit of. It's like sprinkling a little bit of money around places, and hoping for the best. And, that was part of why we refined our community fund model to get more focused. And I feel like the corporate sector is doing a little bit of that too. We need to sort of focus on whatever issue is important to us. But I think the next level of that is, corporations, connecting with the sector to understand where those, policy choices that they're making in their own industries are impacting people living in poverty, whether it is, talking to the business community about a living wage, or the impact of police checks, and are they really necessary for all jobs? So I think, the business community paying attention to some of those things and asking and understanding what the barriers are. I think we often hear about, the need to just get people a job. And if they just got a job, off social assistance and get a job, that would be, our community's problems would be solved. That's kind of something we hear out there. But there's so many significant barriers for that person, trying to get there. And how can corporations be a part of those solutions, not just from a philanthropic point and giving to the food bank and giving to United Way or social service agencies, but really taking some deep reflection on, what can we do to be a better employer, to give people a fair shot at, thriving in our community. I hope that that's gains more momentum. And we do have great examples in our local community of organizations that are doing just that, right? And, trying to change their own practices to ensure that everyone has a fair shot.
Yeah, I really agree with that. I think, it's interesting because when you go through times like this where governments, they do come forward, they step forward, they give the funds and the resources that are necessary because you're in a crisis. I've been at the food bank for 35 years. We've had I think 5 prime ministers in that time, many different mayors and councillors and others, and policy changes depending on the economic situation. So I think right now, it's really true that governments are stepping up more to help in this crisis situation. But frequently what happens after it's over is then you get governments come and say, now we've got this debt and we've got to pay it off. Yeah. And the lowest hanging fruit on that is often these social programs, right? And economic programs that are meant to help the marginalized. And I think that's one of the main things that we have to do when we advocate to say, look, we've been through this. And people like you and the United Way have been through this a lot longer than the food bank, but we've been through this many times before. And every time we take 2 steps forward or a step forward, all of a sudden another policy comes back and it guts the very system that's been designed to help people to get these things that you're talking about. And I just fear that that's going to happen after this one, because the amount of debt is pretty high here because of it. There is the inflation and other things. But I think all of us, and, we would look to United Way to help lead in that, is that we have to remind governments that, the whole thing about policy is once you design it and you fund it, you can't just go willy-nilly with it. Yeah. People don't work like that. People have to progress through these stages in their lives in order to be able to get to the point that they deserve to be at. You would feel that way, I would presume.
Well, yeah, it's, I feel like we're sort of walking up to the edge of a cliff right now, where we are seeing some increased investment but it's largely being viewed as temporary. And like you said, I think we're going to be jumping into several years of austerity when it comes to government funding. And so as a sector, we're bracing for that. And I think there's lots of advocacy happening both at a provincial and a national level for the nonprofit sector to find a home within government. I mean, we are the front lines. We know what's happening in local communities and really can be tremendous allies of all levels of government on, getting the funding out effectively, being a place where we can collect community level data to help inform decisions. We can be incredible partners for government, and it would be a real shame to lose and for governments not to sort of take us up on this offer that we're all, really hungry to be a part of so that we can, stretch those dollars as far as possible and have the most amount of impact.
Yeah. Can I tell you a personal story of the United Way? Do you mind? It was only last year, but I remember it was at this time last year, actually, that, the public came forward so much in the business community and through Business Cares. They donated so much, which proves what you're saying is that the community was in this, we're all in this together thing, which was great. But we had so much food that we couldn't get it in the warehouse.
Yeah.
Right. So I sat there and I talked to Jane, my wife, and said, what are we going to do here? And then we thought, the public gave it out of a real motive of wanting to help. So rather than just helping our regular network of agencies, we have a number that we help on an ongoing basis. Why don't we just open it up to any of the agencies that need it, that are part of it? So we all thought that was a great idea. And then we realized we really didn't have contact with those groups. So that's when I called you. Do you remember?
Yeah.
And I called you and said, Kelly, could you just do an email blast or something to all of these different groups so that they would do it? And you did, which we appreciated. We couldn't have done that, but you did. And then the next thing we knew is all of those different groups showed up at the secondary warehouse. And it was a lot of food. I mean, that warehouse was mostly full. They came and they took it away. They went with it. So in that sense, you were also an enabler. You allowed the food bank to do something that it needed to do. It didn't involve funding for you, but you had that kind of reach. That I thought that was awesome, and you did it within a day. Now, it might have just involved a pushing of a button on the computer for you to send that out. I have no idea what you did, but the point was, I'm not sure anybody else could have done that, but you did. You had that reach, and I really appreciated that, because within that month, that food was gone. And these agencies now all had that, where they were really stuck during COVID. So I just wanted to personally thank you for that, because I'd like to say I was pulling up my hair at that time, but that didn't happen. But we were really stuck at figuring out how to do it. And that's where the United Way, you've got history, you've got reach, you've got real compassion. I think you've got, you do have the funding side. Everybody understands that. But what you've really added to this now is this whole new idea of inclusion, of getting into these areas that when we thought of charity before, we really didn't include as well as we should have. And you take that kind of advocacy to it. So really, you're all of it. You're the whole package there at the United Way. And I think others have trusted you to do those things, but you're now trying to lead us as a community into more of an inclusive direction as well as we go through this process. I know I'm talking a lot there, and I'm sorry, but it really does mean a lot to us. The food bank looks up to you guys a lot, long before that experience, but also afterwards. And I just really encourage you, Kelly, we really owe the United Way so much in this community. We always have, but in this time when everybody's a little bleary-eyed and feeling isolated and it's tough, it's you guys that are going to help to pull us through it.
Yeah, well, as they say, it takes a village, and we have a small but mighty staff team that helps make those things happen, and a really large, as you do, extended volunteer network that sort of all is coming together to really get us through a tough time, and hope that on the other side of this, we are sort of able to have that build back better, radical recovery. Let's not keep doing things the same old way, because our community can't wait.
That's right. We all owe you so much, Kelly. So thank you. And thank you to the board and, your staff and all the volunteers. And it is amazing your reach and what you're able to do. We really appreciate it as a community. And when we look back, we might have a time to assess just how much, that you have done and how you helped us to get over so many hurdles. Thank you, Kelly. And thanks for doing that.
And thank you for the care you take for some of our community's most vulnerable every single day. Showing up at the food bank or those community agencies that are receiving food from the food bank. And these are tough times. So thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.
You're watching Rogers TV, London.
Hey everybody, it's the RTV Quiz Show. I'm your host, Giovanni Petiti, and you are the luckiest people on the planet because you have discovered this incredibly hot show. This show is spreading faster than a COVID waistline now. If you've never heard of this show before, I got a few questions for you. Number one, when did you get out of your coma? And number two, why don't you have any friends, huh? This is the show. You're going to love this show. Sit back and relax. And if it's your first time, you know what they say. You always remember your first time. Here we go. Round number one. All right, round one, folks. The category is Best Picture Winners. Okay, the Academy Awards has just passed, and some interesting surprises, and woo, unbelievable what the every. I know what you guys are thinking. Guys are thinking, Giovanni, why have you never won an Academy Award? Because Swap Shop didn't win an Academy Award. Giovanni and Me didn't win an Academy Award. Our TV quiz show didn't win an Academy Award. And, there's a few theories out there. Number one is that those shows aren't actually movies. So that's a possibility. Second possibility is that they don't have a Best Actor with Too Much Talent category, which is more likely. Or number three, what I think it truly is, folks, it's just politics. Just politics, that's all. I don't do it for the awards anyway, folks. I do it for the RTV quiz show love. So here we go. Question number one. Which director, producer holds the record for the most nominations for Best Picture? His first nomination was in 1982. Who's the director with the most nominations? Best Picture. Question number two. What is the only foreign language film to win Best Picture? This is the stupidest category ever. You know what the problem with watching a foreign language film? You know what? Foreign languages have a different word for everything. Question number three. Which of the following films never won an Oscar for Best Picture? Was it A, Annie Hall, B, Star Wars, C, Rocky, or D, Rain Man? Which one of them did not win an Academy Award for Best Picture? Actual fun fact, folks, I once had a dog named Rocky. I named him that not because he was tough. I named him that because he had difficulty speaking. He loves the dog jokes. Sparky, he loves the dog jokes. Question number four. Russell Crowe starred in back-to-back Best Picture winners in 2000 and 2001. The first movie was Gladiator. What was the second movie? A fun fact here, folks. According to the Academy Award record book, Roy Boyer never was nominated for an Academy Award for his role as the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz, despite spending most of the movie being outstanding in his field. Question number five. Interesting question here, folks. Which actor only appeared in 5 films during his career, all of which were nominated for Best Picture? Huh? You heard of this guy? Maybe you didn't heard this guy. You heard of what you seen this guy. You won't believe he did it. Time for round two. Round two, the category is constant consonants. All right? All the answers contain 5 consonants in a row. Consonants. They contain 5 letters that are not vowels in a row. Now, that reminds me, it's like the Wheel of Fortune. I still watch the Wheel of Fortune for 2 reasons. 1, Vanna White. And 2 is I'm still waiting for one contestant to use his 5 free letters in the bonus round to spell out a bad word. Yeah, Pat, I'll take an S, an H. Question number 6. Aquamarine is what to people born in March? Well, if you're a woman, it's a ripoff. Question number 7. If PS is written at the end of a letter, what does it mean? What does PS stand for? Remember, folks, the answer has 5 consonants in a row. And the word is not in Polish. Question number 8. The Roxy, the Copacabana, and Studio 54 are all famous examples of what? Of what? Her name was Lola. She was a showgirl with other feathers in her hair and a dress got down there. A paprika, something, something. There was a big fight. La 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 la. Da, 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 da. Good backup. Good backup. Who shot who at the coop? Question number 9. What Eastern European soup is primarily made from beets? Beets, what's that called? Folks, a fun fact. When I was in university, I had a very religious roommate from Eastern Europe who used to bug me all the time. That's right. He was a real Budapest. Question number 10. In 1944, Helen Duncan became the last person convicted and imprisoned for what crime in the UK? So, teeth whitening / straightening. All right, time for round 1. Answers. All right, question number 1 was, which director-producer holds the record for the most nominations for Best Picture? That was Steven Spielberg. Steven Spielberg. Oh, fun fact. Steven Spielberg directed the movie Lincoln, which did $27 million at the box office, which is ironic because historically Lincoln doesn't do well in theaters. Too soon? Too soon. Too soon. Question number 2. What is the only foreign language film to win Best Picture? Well, it's Parasite. Parasite. Question number 3. Which of the following films never won an Oscar for Best Picture? The answer was Star Wars. Star Wars. I actually saw Star Wars on TV a couple of weeks ago, folks, and I didn't remember how much swearing was in the original. Basically, they had to beep out everything R2-D2 said. It was hard to understand most of the time. Question number 4. Russell Crowe starred in back-to-back Best Picture winners. The first one was Gladiator. What was the second one? A Beautiful Mind. Question number 5. Which actor only appeared in 5 films in his career and all of which were nominated for Best Picture? That was John Cazale. John Cazale. He was Fredo in The Godfather. Remember him? Question number 6. Aquamarine is what to people born in March? It's their birthstone. What a ripoff. People born in March. Ladies and gentlemen, a little tip for you. Never marry a woman whose birthday is in April. That's diamonds. That's diamonds. That's why I love my topaz wife. I sure do. Question number 7. If PS is written at the end of the letter, what does it mean? Well, PS stands for postscript. Postscript. Question number 8. The Roxy, the Copacabana, and Studio 54 are all famous examples of what? Answer is nightclubs. Oh, speaking of nightclubs, folks, I got some late breaking news. It says here, according to the police in the Kitchener-Waterloo area, they've confirmed that a man who fell off the 4th floor of a rooftop nightclub will be fined. Apparently, he was a bouncer. Question number 9, what Eastern European soup is primarily made from beets? It's called borscht. Borscht. Borscht, the food that tastes as good as it sounds. Borscht. Question number 10, in 1944, Helen Duncan became the last person convicted and imprisoned for what crime in the UK? That was witchcraft. Witchcraft. It says here, fun fact, more specifically, she was arrested under the Witchcraft Act of 1735 for swindling people as a medium. As a medium. Which leads me to believe if a medium can talk to dead people, imagine what a large can do. We'll be back with more RTV Quiz Show after this. I see you.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details. Night's action on Rogers TV.
Hi, I'm Matt Loop, and I am currently on Jack Mornings with Stax, Megan, and Loop on Jack 102.3.
But it looks like it's going to be a beautiful day today. I can't believe...
I was first introduced to volunteering at Rogers back when I was taking TV broadcasting at Fanshawe, and I've really been volunteering ever since.
I love it when a show comes together.
When I first started at Rogers, I was behind the scenes doing camera for sports broadcasts and in studio shows, but then I put a proposal in for a sketch comedy show called Channel Surfing, and then I went on to host some shows like What's Up London.
I don't think they have a jumpsuit big enough for me.
I wouldn't be where I am today without the wealth of experience that I got at Rogers. Not only did I get to improve my broadcasting skills in an actual environment, but as far as the sketch comedy went, it also helped my writing, my self-esteem. It also helped me on air as well. And now look where I am. I'm hosting a radio show. It's crazy.
My husband is a wonderful man and a great father when he's not drinking. I'm so angry he chooses alcohol over us. If he really loved us, he'd stop drinking, right? My counselor suggested I try Al-Anon. I didn't understand why. I'm not the one with the problem, but I'm glad I went. Do you worry about someone's drinking? You are not alone. Al-Anon or Alateen can help. Call 866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
Welcome back to the hottest show in television, the RTV Quiz Show. Here we go. Round 3 is vexillology. Vexillology. This is a study of flags. I'm going to show you flags, and you're going to tell me from what country or organization they are from. All right? Now, for some of you, this might be unfair because maybe you majored in vexillology in university and are currently enjoying a very illustrious career looking at flags. All right, question 11. What intergovernmental organization is represented by this flag? That flag. What flag is that intergovernmental organization? I don't want to give it away, but they would make a hell of a soccer team if they just. Right. Question number 12. This flag is widely considered to be the oldest continuously used national flag. What country does it belong to? Right. Because over time, countries change their flags. There's one time Canada had the red insignia. It was like mostly red with a Union Jack in the corner. France's flag now is red, white, and blue. And there was a time in its history where they removed the red and blue parts. Question 13. Based on the U.S. Maritime Warning Flag System, what does this flag indicate? You can picture that. Well, to me, it indicates that you accidentally bought two of the same things on Amazon. That flag tells me. Question 14. What branch of the Canadian military is represented by this flag? Let me give you a hint there. It's the branch of the military that shops at Target, apparently. Clue. All right, question number 15. What heavily populated metropolitan city is represented by this flag? City. Yeah. Right, it's time for round 4. All right, the category is venomous animals. These are poisonous animals, folks, all right? All right, here we go. Question 16. What semi-aquatic, egg-laying animal is one of the few venomous mammals on Earth? Huh? Oh, I know this answer. Actually, I think I dated this answer back in college. Question 17. The largest member of the wasp family was introduced to North America in 2019. What is it called? Donald Trump. No? Oh, there's more. Aside from a painful sting, it may also be able to spray venom. Trump, no? Question number 18. The inland taipan is considered the most venomous of what type of animal? It's the most venomous of inland taipan. So deadly, nobody's ever heard of it. That's how deadly it is. You don't even know. Question number 19. What is the most venomous marine animal? Is it A, stonefish, B, blue-ringed octopus, C, Australian box jellyfish, or D, Portuguese man of war? I don't think it's a stonefish. I think he'd just be mellow, maybe want to be left alone. Maybe tell you a story that's a little bit too long, doesn't make a lot of rambles, doesn't make a lot of sense. Question 20. Humans often encounter a deadly Brazilian wandering spider while it is hiding in what type of fruit plant? Ooh, a deadly Brazilian spider. They're easy to spot because they're probably doing the Macarena. That would be good. All those legs. Macarena. Macarena. Hey, Macarena. Oh. Macarena. Something. Macarena. Hey, Macarena. Right, time for round 3. Answers. The category was vexillology. Here we go. Question 11. What intergovernmental organization is represented by this flag? That's the United Nations. The United Nations. A fun fact here, folks. The United Nations actually has its own national anthem, all right? It goes something like this. We got the whole world in our hands, except for Greenland, Gibraltar, and Aruba. In our hands, we got the whole world in our hands, except for Guam, Hong Kong, Isle of Man, and North Cyprus. In our hands, we got the whole world in our hands. Question number 12. This flag is widely considered to be the oldest continuously used national flag. What country does it belong to? That's Denmark. Speaking of Denmark, I've learned something with this recent geopolitical situation with NATO and everything. It's that Denmark apparently has a very well-equipped army with tens and thousands of pieces of military equipment. But I'm starting to suspect it's probably just a bunch of Lego pieces, like that they're going to spread along the border. So the invading soldiers are going to just when they step on them, ow! My feet! It's Lego! Turn back! It's Lego! Question 13. Based on the U.S. Maritime Warning Flag System, what does this flag indicate? It's a hurricane warning, which doesn't make any sense. A I think the flag for a hurricane warning should look like this. Right, question 14. What branch of the Canadian military is represented by this flag? That's the Royal Canadian Air Force. There we go. Question 15. What heavily populated metropolitan city is represented by this flag? That's Tokyo. Question 16. What semi-aquatic egg-laying animal is one of the few venomous mammals on Earth? That's a platypus. Question 17. The largest member of the wasp family was introduced in North America in 2019. It has a painful sting and may also spray venom. That's the Asian giant hornet, or the murder hornet. I don't think that's proper. It should be the allegedly murder hornet, because to date, none of them has stood trial and been convicted. Question 18. The inland taipan is considered the most venomous of what type of animal? The answer is snake. Snake. It says, fun fact, one bite contains enough venom to kill 100 human adults, or enough to give Chuck Norris a mild rash. Question 19. What is the most venomous marine animal? That's sea and Australian box jellyfish. So if you ever see one, I suggest you leave it in the box. Personally shocked that something in Australia wants to kill you. That's the plants want to kill you. So, question 20. Humans often encounter a deadly Brazilian wandering spider while hiding in what type of fruit plant? That's a banana plant. Banana plant. That's why we can't have nice things. All right, folks, don't go away. More RTV quiz show, double point answers, and a big shout out coming up right after this.
Monday nights, a winner with Optimus TV Bingo on Rogers TV. With a weekly prize board of $3,000, the money raised funds projects to help the youth in our community. You can pick up your cards at over 90 locations across London, and for only $2, you get 6 chances to win. Watch, play, and win every Monday night at 8 p.m. with Optimus TV Bingo on Rogers TV, or streamed live at rogerstv.com.
I'm Shannon Woolley, host of Batter Up Beachville on Rogers TV. Join myself and Doug Harris as we learn more about the first recorded baseball game in Beachville. Watch it on Rogers Cable, rogerstv.com. Thanks for watching.
Hi everyone, my name's Ranger M. I love to knowledge share, and that's just what I'm going to do with you. So come on, let's go learn with Ranger M.
I'm Jennifer Slay, the host of What's Up London. Join me each week as I meet Londoners who are doing extraordinary things and helping to make the city a better place to live. Watch What's Up London Mondays only on Rogers TV.
All right, folks, welcome back. Welcome back to the RTV Quiz Show, round 5, double point answers. And before we get started, I want to give out a big RTV quiz shout out to some people I met at Conestoga College who have formed an RTV quiz show club. Look at them. Look, that's me right there in the middle, in case you can't spot me out there. All right, they're all people that are studying at Conestoga who love the show. They all gather around together and they can't get enough of it. So I just want to say to everybody in that picture, okay, I love you and nobody else. Right, round 5. The category is float your boat. All right, these are all questions about boats. Here we go. Question 21. What side of a boat is the starboard side? part of a boat is the starboard side? It's whatever side I'm on. All right, question 22. What is the name of the ship that transported the Pilgrims from England to the New World in 1620? 1620. Oh, speaking of Pilgrims, fun fact here, fun fact. According to the University of New Brunswick, if the Pilgrims were alive today, they would be best known for being over 423 years old. So, question 23. Captain Bligh was set adrift by the mutinous crew of what Royal Navy ship in 1789? What was the name of the ship Captain Bligh was on? Oh, speaking of Captain Bligh, fun fact, according to the University of New Brunswick, if Captain Bligh was alive today, he would be most famous for being 246 years old. That's good. One. Question 24. What would you call a sailboat with a single mast? A sloop, a dinghy, a cutter, or a frigate? Speaking of which, my daughter approached me the other day and said she'd like to start racing sailboats. I don't have the heart to tell her that I don't think she's that fast of a swimmer. Question 25. What were the names of the two lost ships from the Franklin expedition? Their wreckage was discovered in Nunavut waters in 2014 and 2016. This guy lost 2 boats, apparently in the middle of nowhere. Am I the only guy who smells an insurance job? Come on. Well, I lost 2 boats. Somewhere in Nunavut. So, and one of them had a Rolex in it, some furs, and rare stamps. All right, time for round 5 answers. All right, question 21 was, what side of the boat is the starboard side? That's the right side is the starboard side. Question number 22, what is the name of the ship that transported the Pilgrims from England to the New World in 1620? That was called the Mayflower. The Mayflower. Question 23, Captain Bligh was set adrift by the mutinous crew of what Royal Naval ship in 1789? That was the HMS Bounty. They kicked the captain off the ship, renamed it the HMS Booty Call, and turned it around, baby. Question 24. What would you call a sailboat with a single mast? That's a sloop. A sloop. That reminds me, folks, I want to give a special shout out to my friend who, during COVID, started a very successful boat building business in his attic. And so far, he tells me that the sales are going right through the roof. Question 25, what were the names of the 2 lost ships from the Franklin expedition? That was Erebus and Terror. With names like that, I'm shocked that they sunk, eh? They couldn't have called it Rocky and Anchor. It would have been better names. Folks, that's all the time we got for the RTV Quiz Show. Till next time, stay calm, stay safe, and stay nice.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Tyler Fines, host of Off the Puck Hockey on Rogers Channel 20. We interview some of the biggest names in hockey and sports. Check us out, Rogers Channel 20, Off the Puck Hockey. Let's go.
Join us for the Learners Healthcare Champions Virtual Awards Gala on April 21st at 7 p.m. as we reveal our 2022 Healthcare Champions Award recipients. Register now at healthcarechampions.learners.ca.
On BBC First, we bring you all the most proper British television.
We're through!
We're respectful.